Hey, I'm Melissa. Welcome back to the Dragon Man's channel. I am going to give you guys a whole overview on the bills that recently passed here in Colorado, what to expect, and hopefully to encourage you guys not to become complacent because who knows what will happen next year. I'm going to talk about the bills that didn't make it through and the ones that did. If you don't know about Dragon Man's, we are a multi-recreational facility in Colorado Springs. We're 8 miles east of Colorado Springs, and we consist of a firearm store, shooting ranges, dirt bike track, paintball park, motorcycle rebuilding, and one of the largest privately owned collections in the United States is here as well, where we give tours every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at 10 a.m. April through November. My parents originally started this place. They moved out here from Long Island, my mom and my dad from Brooklyn, and this was just a plot of land. And they moved out here in 1982, where it started as a motorcycle rebuilding shop, and then it kind of grew from there. So then in 1991, they started selling firearms, opened up the shooting range, and then inevitably the paintball park, and everything else just kind of grew with it. And the whole time my dad was collecting military memorabilia. We cover every war the U.S. was in, from the Civil War and Revolutionary War all the way up to Iraq and Afghanistan, and everything that you see in that museum is one man's doing. It's everything that my dad collected by himself. My mom unfortunately passed away 12 years ago, so I have been helping my dad run the place ever since for the past 9 years. I did go to college. I have a college degree, and I was focusing on evolutionary biology. I actually lived in Alaska. I lived on the East Coast. But I came back to my roots, and I love Colorado. I love what I do. I love working with my dad, and I love seeing my mom's legacy continue. So that brings me to Colorado legislation in the last couple of months for people who really are putting forward some bills that I feel directly impacts the gun community, directly impacts gun stores in Colorado, and honestly, in my opinion, indirectly aims to put us out of business and take away the guns of law-abiding citizens and the residents of Colorado. And obviously, it's a supermajority now in the Senate, in the House, and we have a Democrat governor. We are completely overwhelmed by Democrats in the House. However, 16 seats could be flipped, and then 4 in the Senate. So it'll be really important to get to the election this upcoming November to try to, maintain balance in Colorado and not just see it become so extreme, one-sided by one political party. So with that being said, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about first, and I'm going to get into the bills. So yes, this is a longer video. I am sorry. I apologize. Feel free to skip around, and hopefully you guys are with me to the very end. Something that I have been forgetting to put into these videos in the last couple of weeks is a banquet that Rocky Mountain Gunners will be hosting in June. We will be in attendance. However, we are trying to raise money. The first tier starts at $2,500. Second tier starts at $5,000. And then it goes up to $10,000 and $15,000. The higher tier level we get, the more exposure and marketing Dragon Man's gets as a whole. And then all of the funds go towards the lawsuits that Rocky Mountain Gunners will be filing for some of these bills that have been passed. Whether you like RMGO or not, maybe you don't feel like they're doing as much. Honestly, they're one of the only organizations in Colorado really focusing on these gun bills and have been keeping people up to date. They've been testifying. A rep from the organization has been testifying at each and every one of the gun bill hearings, and they've really put in some work the last couple of months with the petitions and bringing them around the Capitol and just really just trying to do their due diligence. So we would really like to, be able to donate to a good cause, and some of that funds will also go to campaigns of representatives running in the November election. Also, if you guys follow my sister's channel, Ava Flanell, she just started her own organization, IEC, dedicated to restoring balance politically. It's called Balance in the Rockies, I believe, and she's also trying to raise funds because at the end of the day, honestly, like as sad as it is, it comes down to money. I believe the Newtown organization is just came out saying that they're going to be putting $2.7 million into the Democrats' political campaigns here in the upcoming election in Colorado to just try to get some of these Democrats either re-voted in or another Democrat voted in. So it's not that I am wanting to get just Democrats out because people don't like it just to see it as Republicans or Democrats. I want pro-gun representatives in our House that are not trying to strip us of our constitutional rights. And I think that's extremely important. So anyone who is willing to fight for what our founding fathers initially wanted to establish, which was just maintaining balance between the citizens and the government, anyone who's willing to fight for that, you got my vote. So that's what it's all about. And unfortunately, Republican representatives will need to raise funds for their campaigns and really trying to flip some seats this upcoming November. So I think it'll be really important. So if you want to donate to our banquet attendance, then feel free to go to dragonmans.com. It's as little as $30, and that's all we're asking. And then once we meet, that $2,500 or $5,000 mark for the tier 1 or tier 2, we'll take it offline. And over the upcoming months, we'll also be promoting our September shoot, our largest gun shoot of the year. It'll be September 7th and 8th, and you can then purchase tickets for that here in a couple of months as well, and we'll give you a lot of information on that. And I'll also put my sister's link to her new nonprofit political organization for that. All right. Sorry, guys. So again, long video, but with that being said, I'm going to get to the bills, what passed, what failed. Of the 8 bills that we're really concerned about, 2 of them failed, but 6 of them got passed. The automatic firearms ban bill did not get through this session. Second year in a row, huge victory for Colorado residents. This would have banned about 80% of the firearms sold in the state of Colorado. It would have been incredibly impactful to businesses, gun owners, and just had a huge amount of implications for the state of Colorado. Luckily, that went to the committee, the Senate committee. It did pass the House, but Julie Gonzalez, the sponsor of that bill, actually killed her own bill because I believe she realized that the Senate would not have as many votes as they needed to pass it. The main sponsor of the bill, Elizabeth Epps, who endorsed it last year, and it was really her bill last year and this year, and she just got Julie to, commit to being the Senate sponsor like late in the game this year, just tweeted last night that she will be bringing it back next year in 2025. So we have, a year, actually, it's already May, so we have a couple months to be get a feeling of relief, but then come January, the next legislative session starts, and then it goes until May, and it's 120 days, and I'm sure we'll be hearing about another semi-automatic firearm ban bill once again, and we will need to fight tooth and nail once again, which is really important for you guys to get to the elections this November, especially because there's going to be an excise tax bill on the ballot as well, which I will also get into. So that one got killed along with the limited liability insurance for gun owners. It went off to the Senate's second reading. However, they just never got to it. They kept, postponing it and delaying it over, but it finally just never got read. And it would have had to go through its second and third reading on the last day of the session, and it just didn't ever get read. So it basically died by just not being heard. So that is a win. Does not also mean that it won't come back next year. All of these bills are just slowly impeding the rights of gun owners. And so you may think that the bills that I am going to talk about that got passed might be like, oh, okay, we can deal with that. Oh, okay, we can live with that. It's just a slow impediment of our rights, and it's not okay because it's just slowly planting the seed, right? And getting people to get on with thinking that it's okay. None of these are okay. It's not okay to tax constitutional right. It's not okay to disguise a bill for a good cause, inevitably to make it so that people can't afford, guns and ammo anymore. So the first one that I'll talk about that will essentially get passed. It's on Governor Polis's desk right now, the Sensitive Spaces bill. It will be the first one to take effect July 1st, 2024. So just here in a couple of months, it will be illegal to carry concealed on college campuses, polling places, and government buildings. So in addition to all the other places that you can't carry, DMVs, hospitals, school grounds, military bases, and so forth, you also can't carry in those places as well. Not for that. And if you have a college student attending college who is nervous about protecting themselves on campus, be sure to look into taser self-defense. They make some really awesome tasers, protrude out an electrode so you don't have to be that close up to the attacker, and that will be completely legal on college campuses. The next one is the car storage firearms bill. So this one we didn't really think would get passed, and then it did. The House and the Senate just couldn't agree on the amendments, and they finally did in the last 2 days of the session. So this is essentially saying that effective January 1st of 2025, you need to have your pistol in a locked hard case if you are leaving your firearm unattended in your car or your vehicle, your truck, whatever, your Jeep. And then your shotguns and your rifles need to be locked up with like a trigger lock, but they can be in a soft case. So it distinctly specified in the bill that your handgun has to be in a hard locked case. So if it's not hard, I don't know if they're going to automatically fine you, and the penalty fine is going to be $500. The next one is the merchant code bill that did already pass, and it's already signed into law. That one will go into effect August 9th of 2024. So this is essentially allowing the credit card companies to flag any purchase that you make at a firearm-specific store as a firearm purchase or under the category of firearms. So now if maybe you make too many purchases, maybe it might raise a red flag. And then any sort of law enforcement agency, attorney general can then ask for those records to then do any sort of investigation or whatever. So pretty intrusive, kind of an invasion of privacy for sure. And then here at Dragamans, because we have multiple avenues of business, we are going to try to be exempt from this. So it'll really just be like your firearm specific stores. Places like Scheels, Cabela's, they won't apply as well. I've already been in touch with our processing provider to make sure that we will be exempt. However, if you're still a little bit uncertain, we will more than likely get an ATM here at Dragamans in the upcoming months and get cash out and have that peace of mind for your payment methods for your firearm transaction. Again, that goes into effect August of 2024, so just here in a couple of months. We should definitely have an ATM by August. Next up is the concealed carry permit requirements. It did pass all of its readings. It got signed by the Senate, by the House, and it will end up on Governor Polis's desk. He could veto it. So any of these bills that have not actually been made into a law, which is just all of them besides the merchant code, he could technically still veto. So if you want to send Governor Polis an email, all that kind of stuff, I'll be sure to put his email in this post. He's really the only one now that can kill these bills. The gun permitting one, so it hasn't been signed into law yet. However, if it remains on his desk within 10 days of the session not being over, then it will automatically be signed into law within 10 days. If a bill gets passed in the last 10 days of the legislative session, it has 30 days before it just sits there and then just gets automatically signed into law. The concealed carry permit requirement would essentially establish a requirement to have classroom range time and pass a written test. You have to score at least an 80% or better on the written test and receive a 70% or better on the accuracy, the shooting accuracy, and also handling ability to show that you are competent on the shooting range with your firearm, which obviously I'm not against that whatsoever. I do think that people need to get out and have that range exposure and have that range component before they get their concealed carry permit. I've always been supportive of that. However, just the fees that are going to go into this. So now, not only will it be a classroom and range portion course, which actually could hurt a lot of instructors who just offered only the classroom portion, don't have access to a shooting range. And then also it's going to require you to take another class before you can renew your permit. So you'll need classroom range at a minimum of 2 hours in the classroom for that one. The first one needs to be at least 8 hours. And it can be on 2 different days. So if you think about the fees for the initial class, the initial permit, the renewal course, and then to renew your permit, the fees really start adding up here in Colorado to get your concealed carry permit and maintain it, as opposed to any of these other states where it was just constitutional carry. So Colorado is definitely the anomaly in that sense. That will go into effect July 1st of 2025. So you have about a year. And once it goes into effect, if you need to renew, you will need to take the refresher course before you can renew. If you are just going for your concealed carry permit right from the get-go, from the beginning, then you'll need to go through all of that, classroom, range, take the tests. All right, so now I'm going to get into the excise tax and the gun store permit. These, pretty much all of these bills I testified on, maybe a couple of them. I don't believe I testified on the car storage But the excise tax, the concealed carry permit, the merchant code, the gun store permitting, I really tried really hard to give the gun owners, the gun community a voice every time I went up to the Capitol and I testified. So it's been really discouraging to just, go up, give your testimony, hear all these people in opposition testify as well, and then they just vote it through. So if there's frustration in my voice, it's because of that. And no matter what, the gun owners, and the pro-gun reps that are still in the Capitol have been really trying to get across and really trying to get people to, see eye to eye with them. It's just been like a lost cause. So anyways, the excise tax and the gun store permitting was really interesting. So the excise tax, first and foremost, will be the most impactful bill for the average gun owner and any of you watching right now. So this essentially started at 11%, it went down to 9%, and then it was amended to 6.5%. So you might be thinking like, well, it could have been 11%. I'm pretty sure they started high because they knew that it would be amended down. 6.5% is still a lot of money. If you think about it, here at Dragonman's, it's 5.13% sales tax, which is very low. But now for all of your firearm, ammo, and firearm accessory purchases, so anytime that you want to purchase ammo now, you're going to get an additional tax. This will go on the ballot, however, so we get to vote. I'll talk about that here in a second, but it'll go up to essentially 11.63% out of the city, and then like in the city of Colorado Springs, Denver, and surrounding areas, it'll be a 15.5% sales tax. I called up around Shales and Cabela's all around Colorado, and they are all pretty much at a 9% fee, roughly, give or take. So you add on now 6.5%. You're going to be paying 15.5% every time that you purchase ammo, every time you purchase a firearm accessory, and also a firearm in general. So if you purchase a SCAR, you get a really expensive gun, you are going to be paying a lot of money on that tax. I have to say that listening to this, not only just testifying against it and listening to other people's testimony and all those hearings, but then actually hearing the senators debate it in the last couple of days was really interesting. And I really have to say that my heart goes out to all of the senators who really try to fight for the gun community and tried to, put forth some amendments to get this down and get some people exempted. So I believe it was Will Perry. I forget what his district is, but Will Perry really tried to say that people in rural areas should be exempt. So people who are wanting to engage in the shooting sports and paying for ammo for clay sports shooting, for just competition shooting, how much ammo they'll be buying. So he tried to get that amendment. It failed. Then he tried to exempt veterans. He said, these veterans, they gave so much time and almost like their lives to fighting for, the residents of Colorado, for our country. We should exempt them. They voted that down. And it was really interesting because the excise tax bill in the bill, well, most of it will go to survivors and victims of domestic violence. There is a portion of it is saying that it will go to veteran services because we care about our veterans. And that's what the sponsors of this bill try to get across. So then Will Perry said, well, how about we just do Medal of Honor recipients and exempt them from this tax? They voted no again. The Democrats, I think it was all of them voted essentially no for the most part. It was a vocal vote, so we don't know exactly who voted no, but President Finberg decided that it was an overwhelming majority of no's. So that didn't get passed. And then Will Perry said, well, how about, because this bill is aimed at supporting victims and survivors of domestic violence, let's exempt them. And you might be saying, well, some of these survivors, were abused with someone who, might have potentially threatened them with a firearm. So why would they want to be around that? I get it. But I can't tell you how many people have come into the store over the last couple of years wanting a firearm because their abuser had a firearm and they wanted to balance the playing field. I have had a lot of women take my women's only classes that have wanted to get trained on a firearm because they don't feel safe. I've even had men come because they don't feel safe because of their abuser. It goes both ways with, both male and female. So yes, there are those victims and survivors who did experience domestic violence that still want to purchase a firearm. So Will Perry said, well, let's just exempt those people. Again, they voted no against that. So I really appreciated Will Perry doing that. And then in the third and final reading, Kevin Van Winkle of Highlands Ranch, he actually wanted to put in an amendment to go from 6.5% to 2.5%. They also voted no on that one as well. So that really would have had a better chance of passing on the ballots this November, I believe, if it was lower. So the fact that it's even higher, I hope that these gun owners and, you guys watching, I hope you really make it to the polls. Additionally, Senator Gardner, he said in the third and final reading that this will just drive black market sales and also people just going out of state to purchase these firearms without the huge tax. Jim Smallwood, really appreciated him. He called everyone out of the sponsors of this bill, and he said it's interesting now that you are putting forward, that the Democrats are putting forward all of these anti-gun bills when they know that now they have a supermajority in the House, in the Senate, and Governor Polis is a Democrat as well, and he blatantly said that they're disguising this bill as a cause for these victims and so forth, and that it's really intending to just get people to stop purchasing firearms and ammo and essentially, be a direct impediment on our Second Amendment rights, inevitably anyways. Then last and foremost, another representative said that there should not be any tax whatsoever on a constitutional right. He pointed out that we don't tax our First Amendment. We don't tax anything where we get to, speak publicly. So why are we taxing a constitutional right? Finally, Tom Sullivan in the third reading, he came up and he was a proponent of the Merchant Code bill, of the concealed carry permit training bill, and he sponsored the red flag bill. He would have been the flip vote. So how do you think he really would have voted for the semi-automatic firearm ban bill if that did actually make it to committee to get read? He inevitably said that, number one, the Republican representatives don't vote yes for mental health bills, which was an outright lie. These representatives, if you really see how they vote on mental health, they are huge advocates for funding mental health. So when he said that, it was completely exaggerated. And then he also said that since a super small percentage of actual gun owners own a very large percentage of the firearms in circulation, that it wouldn't be a big deal. And these are people who are getting ready for the apocalypse. They have this arsenal and basically stigmatizing the gun community as people who are maybe not in their right minds and just, collecting all of these firearms and so forth. And he said they're getting ready for the bloodbath in November. These were completely exaggerated statements. To say that someone is bad for having an arsenal of firearms is saying that someone is bad for having a collection of model cars or a collection of any other hobby. So sorry, Tom. Not accurate at all. And I really appreciate Kevin Van Winkle coming up and basically calling Tom Sullivan out on that and saying that it was a very exaggerated statement. These are just good Samaritans, good people, responsible gun owners who are essentially just putting money into wanting to collect firearms, either for engaging in a passion of shooting and hunting, and then also investments. So yes, Tom, there are people who do collect a lot of firearms, but just like any other thing that gains value after a certain amount of years, it is smart to invest in them because a lot of firearms do become very rare and they do really go up in value. At the end of the day, the vote was 15-18. It was so close in that third reading in the Senate, and it just really needed 3 more Republican votes to just kill this bill right then and there. But it was 18 people in favor of the bill for the excise tax bill, and then 15 people who voted against it. So it will be on our ballot in November. Get to the polls, otherwise you will be charged an additional 6.5% tax on your firearms, ammo, and firearm accessories. The last gun bill, which I'm sure none of you are that concerned about because it doesn't affect you, it affects me. It is a state permitting license for gun stores. So if you are an FFL, this will directly affect you. I stayed up till midnight testifying against this bill when it made it to the Senate committee, and unfortunately they passed it. Why am I not surprised? So I got up to the Capitol at 10, 11 in the morning, and I waited all the way until I eventually went home. I drove home and got home around 5 o'clock and then waited until midnight to finally be able to testify against this bill. Sponsor of this bill, who was Jeff Bridges, the main senator who sponsored this bill, he essentially said that the most important component of this bill was the training aspect for our employees, to make sure that our employees get trained, to know when to spot a straw purchase, and to ensure that there is no illegal transactions taking place. If this was his main concern, I don't know why take this up to ATF, and ATF would then somehow change the requirements to now ensure that FFLs require testing for their employees and so forth. I didn't really feel like it was something that we needed to create an entirely new department so that gun stores now have to apply for a license to pay additional fees. And now in the first year, from the fees being paid by the FFLs, they'll hire 5.6 roughly employees, and that money will fund their salaries. Then in the next year, they want to hire a total of 25 employees for an additional $30 million to fund their salaries. I have no idea where this money is going to come from. I asked that in my testimony. None of the senators, none of the representatives answered it, who were on those committees. And then the following year, it'll be an additional $3 million. So it's just wild. This will inevitably come out of the taxpayers' money, and they're saying that it's coming out of the cash fund, which is essentially taxes coming from you guys. So this is completely unnecessary because as Mark Baisley, who is a representative senator, he said that it was entirely burdensome. And Paul Lundeen, another Republican representative, he said that it was completely duplicative, completely redundant, since we're already regulated by ATF, which we are on a very strict scale. All FFLs are held to a very high standard. And the scariest thing about this bill for gun stores is that if you have your first infraction, it'll be a warning, and your second infraction, they can pull your license, and you will not be able to conduct business even if you have your FFL license. This is going to put a lot of gun stores out of business, potentially to lose their license. I don't know on what grounds they would pull that license. It didn't say in the bill. So a very scary bill that will be passed for gun stores to now adhere to these requirements on a state level regulated by the Department of Revenue in their new department that they're going to create, where we have to then pay a fee, an application fee, and all this stuff. And our employees will also be having to submit fingerprint photos for federal investigation because they'll be handling firearms. We don't ask that of customers coming to purchase a firearm. Why do our employees have to, submit fingerprint testing and all this stuff? So some fun stuff. So that one, essentially, I don't really see the governor killing this bill. I don't see him vetoing it. And that will go into effect July 1st of 2025. So some really bad stuff happened this legislative session. You might think it's a win because the semi-automatic firearm bill did not pass, HB 24-1292. However, I think this is just the beginning. And unless you guys get to the polls this November and try to swing or flip some of those key districts that really won by a small margin, plus the representatives that filled the vacancy spots. So we have 29 representatives that filled vacancy spots. So essentially the representative, he or she retired, and it wasn't during election year. So the committees, the Senate committees and the House committees, they form committees and then elect people themselves without consent of the general population to fill those spots. Timothy Hernandez, who sponsored the assault weapons ban bill, was a vacancy spot elected official from these committees. So was, I think, Clifford, I forget his first name, and he was the one telling RMGO to get out of the office, if you guys saw that video. So he filled a vacancy spot as well. So these people were not elected in a general election. So if you don't like that person that the Senate or the House committee elected, get to the polls and make sure that you vote for someone who you have been listening to, you like their stances on things, to then fill that position, because this is an election year. The House representatives are up. Some of the Senate elected officials are up. Their terms are up. So this is going to be a huge election year. Also, you need to vote against this excise tax because that will be on the poll as well. All right. I hope I answered everyone's questions that they might have had about these bills. And that is it. So leave your comments in the video below. Upcoming weeks or months, we will be promoting our machine gun shoot September 7th and 8th, the largest one of the year. This is going to be huge because we are still allowed to have all of these super scary guns. And now we can have them for you guys to test out. And we're going to be bringing industry companies in. You can come rent machine guns. So we're going bigger and better than any other year before. So definitely make sure that you come out to our machine gun shoot September 7th and 8th. Come visit me, the museum, if you need anything firearm related. I know these videos have taken away a lot from, me just talking about firearms and talking about what I really like to do and what I really find interesting and I'm passionate about. So hopefully I can get back to that. But in the upcoming weeks, I will be making a video on the representatives that voted really for the assault weapons ban bill, and that voted strongly for some of these other bills to go into effect, so that you know what names to look out for and what representatives in your districts are really not working for you and not supporting the gun owners and the gun stores of Colorado. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.